Bienvenidos a un programa más de la serie. Hoy en Adelante, Voces de la Frontera celebra su 11º aniversario. También Daryl Morin, en campaña por la vicepresidencia regional de LULAC. Y Life Navigators busca la independencia y una vida más plena para individuos con necesidades especiales. El 2012 fue un año en el que Voces de la Frontera participó, influyó y logró cambios en asuntos tan diversos que van desde oponerse a la nueva ley estatal del voto, que requiere una identificación para poder votar, apoyar a los trabajadores en huelga de las pizzas Palermo, sin dejar de incluir la redistribución estatal de los distritos electorales, entre otros. Voces de la Frontera celebró sus logros en un evento anual titulado Gala Popular.
Voces de la Frontera, which is an organization that we all know takes the fight for justice wherever it has to be waged.
El pasado 15 de noviembre, Voces de la Frontera llevó a cabo su evento anual titulado Gala Popular, con el que la organización celebró 11 años de servicio y liderazgo.
Pues en la Gala del Pueblo estamos celebrando los gran liderazgo que se ha demostrado en este año y celebrando las victorias que Voces de la Frontera ha cumplido. En particular estamos celebrando el liderazgo de los jóvenes que ganaron la acción diferida este año. Se está celebrando la protección del derecho del voto y también la impresionante nivel de movilización del votante latino, afroamericano y de bajos recursos. Y también todo el día las personas, los líderes que están día tras día abogando por los derechos de los inmigrantes y la unidad familiar.
Líderes y defensores de derechos civiles fueron galardonados por su dedicación y apoyo durante el año. Los primeros en ser honrados con el Premio de Derechos Civiles fueron el abogado y presidente de la NAACP, James Hall, y el abogado Richard Sachs por su participación en los cambios a la ley de votación que requerían una identificación fotográfica.
I represented Voces de la Frontera in the photo ID litigation challenging the photo ID requirement that would have disenfranchised hundreds of thousands of voters in the state of Wisconsin. And I also represent the Palermo Workers Union in their labor dispute with Palermo's. I'm very proud to be representing Voces in two important legal matters, and I'm glad to be here tonight to celebrate with them their 11 years. I think Voces is one of the most important organizations in our community in terms of standing up for what's right, regardless of whether it's popular, regardless of whether it's expedient. They've always been a terrific organization for all working people in our community.
The maps devised by Voces to stand instead of the unfair redistricting of the Latino districts in Milwaukee.
Los abogados Peter Earle y Jackie Boynton también recibieron el reconocimiento de derechos civiles por su trabajo en el caso de la redistribución de distritos electorales.
I was the attorney with Peter Earle, and we were co-counsel on the case. It was a federal court case, and it was a week-long trial, and we ended up prevailing. There were many counts in the case. We ended up prevailing on the Latino redistricting issue, where we were challenging the district that the Republicans had given us, and we were able to create a new map.
This was an important case. When we started this lawsuit, it was clear to us that the Republicans in the legislature had diluted the Latino vote. A seventh grader flunking math could have figured that out.
Well, it was great to be representing Voces and all of the people who support Voces, because when we developed a new map as an alternative, as the court advised us that we could, we were able to get a lot of community support, and it showed that Voces had a lot of Latino community support in redrawing this map that created a majority of eligible Latino voters.
Everything that we do at the clinic is for that, is to empower people.
El abogado Israel Ramón fue honrado con el premio Workers Center Award por la creación de la clínica legal en Voces de la Frontera, la cual por más de 10 años ha ayudado a cientos de familias con servicios de abogacía gratuita.
Estoy recibiendo el premio porque establecí la clínica legal en Voces hace más de 10 años cuando se abrió la organización. Yo y Christine determinamos que la población necesitaba información legal, so establecimos la clínica legal en Voces. Bueno, es muy importante porque Voces ha estado enfrente de muchas cosas que afectan a la comunidad. Por ejemplo, las elecciones que tuvimos, Voces estuvo enfrente de eso para tratar de ayudar a la población que voten. Además de eso, hace muchas cosas para la comunidad que son importantes.
Otro de los reconocimientos otorgados durante la gala fue el Community Leadership Award.
I'm delighted. I've been associated with VOCE since 2009, and it's a wonderful organization filled with wonderful people and has a wonderful cause. Equality Wisconsin is essentially an LGBT organization, but we believe in equality and economic justice for all people, and we're happy to be here to show our support.
El premio al nuevo movimiento santuario fue otorgado a los voluntarios Jim y Jean Cusack por su gran apoyo y dedicación al acompañar a las familias indocumentadas a sus citas en el Tribunal de Inmigración en Chicago.
Sometimes it's heartbreaking what we're doing there, but it's also very rewarding, especially when they come home with us and we're successful in the case. And a lot of has changed since the judicial discretion and DACA and deferred action. That has really worked because it's given a window of opportunity that was not there before.
El Richard Houlihan Youth Activist Award, o Premio del Activista Juvenil, fue otorgado a representantes del grupo juvenil de Voces de la Frontera por su gran liderazgo en promover los derechos de los estudiantes indocumentados.
This past year, I've been involved in organizing for the Student Bill of Rights campaign that we helped initiate here in Milwaukee. I've done some get out the vote stuff. So this past election, we did this Dream Voter Pledge, basically asking people that when they vote in November, that they vote in the interest of undocumented youth. And I was the organizer for that here in Milwaukee.
Yo pienso que es muy importante porque muchos de nosotros venimos de familias en las que somos trabajadores o estamos en situaciones que pues, no nos favorecen muchas veces, como el tal de ser indocumentado o cosas así. Por eso pienso que los estudiantes deben de motivarse para luchar por su gente, para luchar por los derechos de uno mismo. Estoy muy contenta de que yo pueda ser parte de Voces ahora y llevo alrededor de 5 años y no estuve ahí para los primeros 6, pero como ya llevan 11, pues que sigan adelante y espero que sigan con mucho éxito como el que han tenido ahorita.
El evitar forzar a votantes de Wisconsin de tener restricciones en cuestión de identificación para darles el derecho del voto. Y estoy muy agradecido por recibir esto, la lucha sigue.
Pues me siento muy inspirada, especialmente pues después de estas últimas elecciones, porque el votante latino ha respondido y eso era parte de nuestra contribución al movimiento nacional. Y eso ahora ya se ha abierto el diálogo que esperábamos en ambos partidos. El presidente declarando que la reforma migratoria es una prioridad inmediata y adentro del Partido Republicano también diciendo que la reforma migratoria también es una necesidad y no se puede ignorar el votante latino.
Muy agradecido por todas las personas y el bufete de abogados al cual yo pertenezco por lograr esta gran victoria.
Pues muy agradecida porque todas estas personas y realmente esto representa una fracción de toda la gente que ha aportado. Nos encantaría que se podría hasta hacer algo más, pero es un momento para celebrar esa contribución. Todas las personas que vienen aquí porque han hecho una contribución al movimiento o también económicamente están apoyando este movimiento y la organización. Y estamos pues muy agradecidos porque lo que hemos hecho y lo que queremos lograr no es posible sin cada uno de ellos.
Daryl Morin se encuentra en campaña postulándose para la elección de vicepresidente regional de LULAC, la Liga de Ciudadanos Latinoamericanos Unidos. En nuestra conversación de hoy le preguntamos sobre la misión y estructura de esta organización, detalles sobre cómo se está llevando a cabo su campaña y de qué manera LULAC está ayudando a los latinos en el Medio Oeste. Daryl, thank you very much for being with us on Adelante.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful being with you here today.
Daryl, we have seen you working in so many issues, in so many aspects in the community during this time that you start being part of LULAC. Can you tell us a little bit about that background, how it has been for you?
I have to tell you, it's been a wonderful experience. If somebody would have asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago what I'd be doing if I'd be doing these types of things, I would have said, actually, I'm going to stay. I've been doing good in business. I'm going to stay there with my family. But it's actually, besides having my family, been the most rewarding part of my life. From the different people we're able to help out into the community, to having an impact on things like school policy and education, to providing scholarships, to the help we provide in immigration, healthcare, and a lot of others. So it's been a wonderful experience to me.
We know that you are poised for being a vice president, a regional vice president for LULAC.
Okay. Well, as you are aware, LULAC, or the League of United Latin American Citizens, is actually our country's oldest and largest membership-based organization. So you find LULAC throughout the country. It's only probably within the last 5 or 6 years that a lot of people have begun to hear about the work we're doing here in Wisconsin. Everything from the recent redistricting we had to, like I said, changes in education policy, et cetera. So I've been getting requests from across the country to finally run for the position of Midwest Vice President for LULAC. As such, if I'm successful in the campaign, I'll be responsible for all of our operations across 12 states, from North Dakota all the way down to Kansas, all the way over to Ohio. So it'll be quite a bit of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yes, it is, but something we're looking forward to.
How is that you started so early for this position, and what are the steps that are coming for you to be elected then in June?
Okay. So a lot of people say, Daryl, why are you starting so early? The election isn't actually to your convention in June down in Las Vegas. And what I share with them is, even though I'm running for the position of LULAC, National Vice President for the Midwest, it's a national election. So over the next 6 months, I'll be traveling to places like Puerto Rico, to Texas, to California, and to other states, trying to earn the votes of our membership to be honored enough to represent LULAC as our National Vice President. So it's our strategy just to go out, hear from the people, put together our platform, and share our views and our principles. And if we do that and we do it well, we're pretty confident we can be successful.
What are the things, programs, committees that you are going to be in charge of in the case that you are elected?
Well, there's been a couple of things that in my last 7 years being involved, or 10 years being involved in LULAC, that I've really heard from people over and over again. And that's actually changed in the last few years though, but people keep coming to me and saying, Daryl, our #1 priority needs to be civil rights. Whether it's having access to healthcare services or proper high quality of education, to being able to get assistance at the voting place. Obviously that's something that LULAC was at the very forefront at back in 1929, and we need to make sure continues. But #2, closely following that, is employment. Nobody's been hit harder than the Latino community during this recession. And when I say Latino community, I'm just not talking about Latinos from Mexico, not just talking from Puerto Rico or South America or Central America. I'm talking about our entire community. So it's time that when we talk to our elected officials, we tell them we don't want any more short-term fixes. We want family-sustaining jobs that will allow people to provide the opportunities of going to college to their children. So that'll open up a new avenue of opportunities from them. So, and then that goes to education, and it goes to immigration reform. So I just see so much opportunity right now that I want to make sure that we take advantage of it, given the shifting political nature of things right now in Washington.
Daryl, you are a supporter of the Republican Party. 70% of Latinos supported Democrats in the past election for President Obama. How are you treated? How people accept you inside of every committee, every initiative, all over up and down Wisconsin? If you have this a part of you that is not the common among Latinos.
I want to thank you so much for bringing up that question. So first off, let me get this on the record. LULAC is a national organization, nonpartisan. What that means is we work just as well with President Bush on trying to get things like comprehensive immigration reform, education reform, and those things passed as we do with Barack Obama. So that's one of the things that actually drew me to LULAC, was we're not about party. we're about community. So yes, while some of my ideals do lean towards the Republican Party, I think you can go to a number of elected officials in the state that will say, that are Democrats, that said, you know what, Daryl has always worked with us in earnest, and it's always been my belief, wherever the good idea comes from, if it's good for our community, we should develop it. I don't think you'll find one Republican that'll ever say every good idea is always coming from a Republican, or one Democrat who'll say every good idea has always come from a Democrat. So if it's good for the community, that's where I want to be.
Daryl, but I'm not letting you go without asking you, what is the point where you are a Republican instead of a Democrat? What is the point where you differ with Democrats in your thinking?
I believe that too much time is spent creating these divides. So do I believe that somebody who's out there working hard deserves to take home more of their paycheck? Yes, I do. Right? I do believe in a strong military to make sure that our country is safe, both internally and externally, et cetera. But I also believe that we need to be socially responsible, that when somebody is down, that we're willing to lend a hand to help them up. And that it's not the quick fix that just looks good on TV, but something that really develops their skills and capacities to be able to provide for their families. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all need to be focused on, are we giving our children the opportunities they deserve? Because I think every generation has the obligation, as I do to my parents and to my children, to leave the world a better place for them.
I get that, but how do you respond to the Republican Party when they have opposed again and again in a point that you just mentioned is one of the most important for Latinos, that is the immigration reform. How are you treated inside of your own party?
Well, I've been extremely vocal, and I think it's been documented in the press against that faction of the Republican Party that's been in the extreme, that has hijacked the issue. I think it's become quite clear now with the last election that people are now valuing the value or seeing the value of the Latino vote. So I've never been supportive of anti-immigrants, whether it's from Republicans or for Democrats. It's time. There's been so much rhetoric and so much blame and finger-pointing going on that we resolve this issue once and for all. If someone's been in the country and has been working and raising a family and for all other purposes has been an outstanding citizen, I believe they should be given the opportunity to stay here without having this fear over their heads. So I don't, once again, not so much about party, but about community. So.
Good. Daryl, in our last 30 seconds, how can people contact you? What kind of help do you need from the audience? What you can do for them, and what can they do for you?
Okay. Well, we're asking all LULAC members to go ahead and support our campaign. You can find information at www.darylmorin.org or www.darylmorinespanol.org. The campaign, as you can imagine, is quite expensive, and it is a volunteer. Position. So we're asking people, if you can, to go ahead and contribute to the campaign to help offset some of the costs we're going to be incurring.
That's very good. So, Daryl, thank you very much for coming to Adelante, especially with this weather that we are having today.
It's my pleasure. And if we're lucky, maybe you can come with me to Puerto Rico.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Life Navigators busca la independencia y una vida más plena para individuos con necesidades especiales. Su directora Vicky Washniak nos habla de los logros y las metas de esta organización. Vicky, thank you very much for joining us on Adelante.
Thank you for having us.
Vicky, can you tell us about the origin of Life Navigators? When and how was it created?
Yes, wonderful. The organization has a very rich history. It was formed in 1949 by a wonderfully committed group of parents who came together in an effort to keep their sons and daughters out of institutions. Back in 1949, there was not the framework of community-based services for individuals with disabilities, and so those families were really instrumental in laying the framework of community-based services and developing what's here today, and including our mission to improve the quality of life through services. And their work was really so important when we look back on the history of individuals with disabilities, where 60 years ago they were in state institutions, and now they live and work and contribute to the community in many wonderful and important ways. And so our work today is really about carrying on the tradition and the foundation from those founding families to make sure that individuals with disabilities have the services and supports to live actively in our community.
We know that you recently changed the name.
As I mentioned, when the founding families formed the organization was originally formed as the United Association for Retarded Children. And the organization went through several name changes throughout its history. And over 20 years ago, we stopped using the term retarded for the individuals we serve just because it had a negative connotation, and we know the individuals that we work with are so wonderful and have so much to offer. So last year, the organization set about a process to speak with our families, the individuals we serve, our donors, our board, and our staff, and through the wonderful work of this community, we set about a name and brand change. And one of the reasons that we came to the name Life Navigators is some of the things that we heard from the people that we serve that were so important in setting our course for the future is that we're here to work with individuals, not for individuals, that the organization really promotes quality of life. We're here to help individuals and families navigate in time of need, and that the organization's long-standing history really led us to a name and a brand that really is very positive and shows to the community the positive impact that individuals have when they're active and connected.
Vicki, what are the numbers of the families and individuals that you serve? And tell us also about the diversity that you serve.
Sure. We serve approximately 4,800 individuals and families throughout the course of a year through a variety of service programs, which I know I'll touch on. And each program's a little bit unique and different, but most of our programs, 30 to 40% of the individuals we serve are from diverse populations throughout our community, and we consistently serve those number of individuals on an annual basis. And one of the areas that is kind of the first connection for how when people get connected to Life Navigate is our information, education, and assistance program. We have a social worker or a nurse that's available Monday through Friday to answer calls and help families think about getting connected to services, answer questions about anything that they may be dealing with in their life. And so that's one of our sort of entree programs to our other services. The organization also provides guardianship services. We're licensed to serve individuals with disabilities that may not have a family member that can serve in that capacity, and we provide advocacy services and support to those individuals to make sure that they're living and contributing to the community. Our family support programs, we work, one of our programs is designed specifically where the parent or the caregiver is over the age of 60, and they, in many cases, have provided a lifetime of loving, caregiving support to their loved one with a disability, and now they're thinking about planning for when they might not be able to provide that kind of service. And so we have a social worker that works with those families to put a plan in place for their future. And then for our younger individuals, we do a lot of work in the schools, the Milwaukee Public Schools and some of our area school districts to really help families that have a child with a disability think about planning and their educational outcomes and thinking about what their son or daughter is going to do in the future and what their interests are. And then one final program that I'd like to mention is just our care management program, where we have an interdisciplinary team which consists of a social worker and a nurse that goes out and works with individuals in their own home and their community to put a plan in place and to put services in place, monitor those services, and really providing an ongoing role in their life to ensure that they're meeting all of their individual goals and outcomes and that they're living safely and successfully in our community.
Vicki, I know that there are so many good experiences that you have had in your job, but is there one that you feel special about and you want to tell us?
I do. I'm particularly close with one individual, and she would have loved to have been here today, but she's recovering from an illness, and her name is Cindy Bentley, and I brought, Cindy's a published author. She spent her young years in the state institution, and through her drive and commitment to realize her dreams, she ended up in a group home, and that's when she first got connected with Life Navigators Services. She was a participant in our women's groups, and she always talks about how important it was when she came out of the institution that there was an organization like Life Navigators that worked with her on things that sometimes people take for granted, but growing up in the institution, she didn't always make decisions for herself. She talked about how important it was being part of the women's group and learning how to dress and socialize and be part of our community. She's an author. She's been to the White House on several occasions. She's been a global ambassador for Special Olympics, and I think she's just an inspiration to the organization and other individuals with disabilities to live, work, and be active and inspired in our community.
What a story. In our last 30 seconds, Vicki, can you tell us how the work that you do is made possible, and where can people contact you, or how can they contact you?
Sure. Our work is made possible really through the wonderful generosity of many friends and donors, through the volunteer efforts of our board of directors, our Friends of Life Navigators, through a very committed staff, and through the contracts that we receive through both Milwaukee County and the state of Wisconsin that are committed to helping individuals live and work and contribute to this community. If at any time anyone has any questions, as I mentioned earlier, someone's available to answer calls 8:30 through 5, Monday through Friday, through our helpline. Our phone number is 414-774-6255. We have a website at lifenavigators.org that's available. We have an online resource guide that features over 300 community-based resources that individuals and families can access free of charge any time of the day.
We are so glad to have you here, Vicki, and we are sure that our audience will appreciate the information that you have provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Y al final de un programa más de Adelante, por favor déjenos saber sus comentarios en nuestro teléfono 297-7544 o escríbanos a nuestra dirección de correo electrónico en adelante@matc.edu. Y visítenos en nuestro sitio del internet en mptv.org y en Facebook. Sintonícenos en Milwaukee Public Television, canales 10.1 y 36.2, todos los martes a las 6:30 de la tarde, y en canal 36.1 los miércoles a las 12:30 de la medianoche y los domingos a las 5:30 de la tarde. En Wisconsin Public Television WPT 38.2, los martes a las 6 de la tarde y los jueves a la 1 de la mañana. Y en MPTV VME 10.3 los viernes a las 6:30 de la tarde y los domingos a las 8 de la mañana. Soy Patricia Gómez, gracias por acompañarnos.